got Femi Femo. Oh, come on, me. Oh, yeah, that's
Good morning.
it.
Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning. How are you today?
And we got Vimbayo.
Good morning, Vimbayo, all the way in Abuja. How are you?
Femi Fem.
That's me.
I'm testing international correspondent live.
Isn't that lovely? I hope it's treating you well. Alrighty, let me tell you all what's happening around the world. Now, we begin again with the elusive prospect of peace in Ukraine. Now, the United States has ruled out sending troops to Ukraine as part of any peace deal to end Russia's invasion in the country. Now, US President Donald Trump did hint at the possibility of sending support by air, but again, nothing concrete has been agreed as negotiations continue. Now, a few locations for this bilateral meeting between the Ukrainian and Russian presidents Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin have been reported, including Budapest, the Hungarian capital. We do know that Viktor Orbán and Donald Trump are good friends. And also the Swiss city of Geneva has also been touted as a possible location for this meeting. Now, this is happening as Russians Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has played down the speed of progress, saying that any meeting of national leaders must be prepared with utmost thoroughness. Now, it is important to note that Russia is yet to make any concrete commitment to meeting Putin, or rather Putin meeting Zelensky at any point just yet. Moving on to mainland Europe now. And the Norwegian royal family has resumed public engagements just days after the son of the Norwegian crown princess has been charged with 32 offences, including 4 counts of rape. His name is Marius Borg Høiby. That's him on the right-hand side. His stepfather is the Crown Prince Haakon and Norway's future king. He is expected, that's the stepson, to stand trial early next year and could face up to 10 years in prison if found guilty of the most serious charges. Now, the charges made public earlier this week include the rape of 4 different women while they slept, as in the women were asleep, allegedly, following a consensual encounters with the Crown Prince's stepson. Now, there's also allegations and charges of domestic abuse of a former partner and illegally filming a number of women, including their genitals, without their knowledge or permission. He is also charged with harassment of police and traffic violations. Finally, Burkina Faso's military government has declared a UN regional coordinator persona non grata over a UN report that listed violations against children in the country. Now, this is Carol Flores Smerigzeniak. She wrote a 10-page report titled Children and Armed Conflict in Burkina Faso, which was released in March. Now, in that report, she blamed government soldiers, civilian defense forces, and Islamist insurgents for the more than 2,000 cases of child recruitment, killings, sexual violence, and abuse over a 2-year period. Now, the Burkinabe military government, which came into power in 2027 under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, say that they were not involved in the preparation of this UN report, nor were they made aware of its findings before it was published. They also accuse the United Nations of making baseless accusations and falsehoods without citing relevant investigations or court rulings. Now, Flores Smerigzeniak, who has more than 20 years of experience in development, security and conflict, was forced to leave Burkina Faso 18 months after her predecessor was also expelled for publishing a blog post where she said the crisis in Burkina Faso was forcing health and education services to close down. The United Nations says the situation is regrettable.
I'll start with Burkina Faso. Sure. Burkina Faso, I think, for me, is heartbreaking because as much as this Captain Traoré came in through a coup, since then he has inspired a lot of young people because of the concepts that he holds, his ideologies around being Pan-Africanist and empowering people. Now, with Burkina Faso, you now have 2 polarizing issues happening, or 2 polarizing sides, which is that there's what is said to be Western-driven propaganda against his administration, and then on the other hand, you have almost an extreme Pan-Africanist position. And somewhere in between there lies the truth. So it's impossible for us to discount the contents of this report, whether or not it's true, because like I said, there's this information warfare currently happening with the status of Burkina Faso and the state of affairs in that nation, because it's perceived that there is a huge pushback against any potential rise in Pan-Africanism and Pan-African movements on the continent. On the flip side, some people are saying, well, it's important for us to continue to condemn Captain Traore because, after all, it's a junta. He's somebody who came in through a coup. So it's tragic that in this instant we now have the fight around what information comes out of Burkina Faso and how it's managed. And it's now very difficult to know where the truth really lies, because even influencers who have been invited to Burkina Faso to document their time there, when they publish their experiences, a lot of people dismiss them and say, well, they're just doing paid PR. So that's that. As I round up on Russia, Ukraine, listen, I think that Vladimir Putin has gained a lot of ground here. So far, he's in the winning position because this war was about NATO, Ukraine joining NATO. And I know Rufai will disagree with me on that. But now that there is an assurance that Ukraine will not be joining NATO and NATO will not have boots on the ground in Ukraine, and the US has also committed that they won't have boots on the ground, but it will be more of a European force, and that is a win for Vladimir Putin.
Thank you.
So like you know, right, Living, but I'm going to disagree with you because those are part of the Kremlin talking points, and I don't amplify Russian propaganda here. I speak the facts to the matter, empirical facts only. What made Putin invade, Ukraine, was because his puppet, Viktor Yanukovych, was removed from power in the Euromaidan. When Yanukovych was there, the same person that Kremlin allies coached to become president, they employed Paul Manafort, Trump's ally, to coach Yanukovych to become president. He became president from 2010 to about 2014. Putin had no problem. In fact, when Yanukovych was there, the same Crimea that Putin went to take over now, he signed a lease for Sevastopol. The reason why everybody keeps talking about Crimea is because of the port in Sevastopol. He had signed a lease that will last many years for Crimea Sevastopol port. So he had no problems. But when Euromaidan happened, that Putin saw that his puppet was not in charge of Ukraine any longer, he went mad. Then he started spewing talking points like, oh, expansionism by Ukraine joining NATO, this is coming home and everything. But he also does not recognize those regions. He wrote it in his 5,000-word article. I didn't write that article. Putin wrote that article there. And I keep referring, go and read the 5,000-word article. Just Google Putin's 5,000-word article. It is there online. He told you the reasons there. So, and after he took Crimea first, the next thing he did, he started fighting with separatist forces in that region. There are people that definitely might not agree with other people in the land. They're people of, Russian extraction. Then they had the first agreement, Minsk I. Putin violated Minsk I. Minsk II, he violated Minsk II. It was when he had fought with separatist forces to a point that he thought he could take over. That's when he got in. So for Trump, that is delusional, to think you can trust a KGB official, a man that when Masha Grassen, I need to give you that book, Femi, when Masha Grassen wrote the book about Putin, you know what she titled the book? A Man Without a Face. You can't read him. He's a poker player. So you think you'll be delusional enough to be able to do a deal with him. It's the height of delusion. You can see from yesterday that America does not have a plan. You said you want security guarantees, a backstop. You are not ready to put boots on the ground. Anyway, it's not that any time America put boots on the ground, they are successful. All the times in history America have put boots on the ground, what is Jegba? They failed. They failed in Vietnam. They failed recently in Afghanistan and the likes. It's not that their fighting force is very good on the ground as such. But you are not putting boots on the ground. You say you will put boots in the air. Probably you have fighter jets like you did in Libya. The sustainability of that for a Russia too, that has an air power, that have long-range missiles. And you see, the area raid warfare has changed. It's the era of drones. When Ukraine entered into Russia to bomb Russia, they didn't need to put fighter jets up in the air. It was drones they used. Secondly, part of the agreement, Putin is saying that, Trump is saying that America will have to have a deal with Ukraine to produce weapons within drones. And it will be $100 billion deal. Can you imagine? You still want to collect money from people that are already broke and broken already. So we are seeing the end to it now. They are waiting for a trilateral talk. Newsflash. I'm not saying I don't believe in miracles. I believe in miracles. But the same Putin that broke Minsk I agreements, which was a trilateral talk, there was Germany and France involved. The same Putin that broke Minsk II agreements, you think he would come this far and cede everything to you without collecting land? Do you know, I tried yesterday for me, I studied Russian media all through. Rosso 1, Rosso 2, 2x2 TV, all of them, TV Rain. Some of the top Kremlin-backed people were even saying that when they are done with Ukraine, they will go as far as Lviv. I rest my case.
That is the threat if I ever did hear one.
Yeah, well, let's start with Putin, first of all. From the beginning of the week, we have been tracking this conversation, actually from last week, Friday, when Putin met with Trump, and the impact on the war between Russia and Ukraine. Unfortunately, as already established, Putin seems to have the upper hand, especially because it seems like America is being soft. America under Trump is being soft on him. Trump is quite keen to see hostilities end, even though he has now admitted that he doesn't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But yesterday, with Fox and Friends, he had mentioned that one of the reasons why, on a light-hearted note, even though his press secretary had come out to say that, his spokesperson had come out to say that he was serious, is that he wants to make heaven. And he feels that he's done so badly that being able to establish peace between Ukraine and Russia would be a stepping stone to that. But that's on a lighter note.
Yes.
But very seriously, though, is this coalition of the willing and how effective it would be? Sir Keir Starmer of Britain is said to be chairing that meeting to see just how much support they can give Ukraine in order to ensure that following peace talks, hopefully they happen, they wouldn't be protected from any future attacks from Russia.
This is it.
But the first thing to even get before we talk about coalition of the willing and security guarantee is peace talks. Is it going to happen? Now, the Kremlin have come out to downplay some of the wins over the last few days, saying that, that talk. So the first thing is that conversation that President Trump had called Putin for, saying that he and Zelensky should meet, might not even happen in the near future. And so already, if they're looking at the body language of the President of America, who doesn't seem very keen to give Ukraine that much needed support that they've given Ukraine with previous administrations, then Putin will continue to feel like he has an advantage. And it's only a matter of time before he wears down Ukraine and Zelensky. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, they are losing lives every day. There's only as much as manpower they would have to continue to face Russia. If he feels that he has a window at all to achieve his goal, which is not just them not joining NATO. It's about land. It's about occupation. It's about taking back Ukraine. Yeah. It's about domination. It's beyond just NATO. Because they've given him that, and yet they're still if it was just about NATO, then he would have stopped. The conflict or the hostilities would have stopped because they have assured him that Ukraine would not be a part of NATO. They have said, they've given him almost on a platter of gold, and yet he's still adamant. Yeah. It almost reminds me of Benjamin Netanyahu and what he's doing with Gaza and Palestine until they see the last land in Ukraine come. I don't think he's going to be satisfied, unfortunately. Yes. So it's either America makes up its mind as to how strict or how heavy the sanctions would be if Russia does not come to the negotiation table. I think that's the only that's going to be what's be the solution. Now in Norway, just very quickly, because this is how progressive nations work, whereby it doesn't matter whom the son of who you are or the connections that you have. If you do crime, you will do time. You will be investigated. You're found guilty, you do time. Yes. Crown Prince's stepson is under the radar, and it almost seems as if he's a serious black sheep. Yeah. After offenses upon offenses, he's still, in police trouble. So watch how that trial will come, how, the investigation's trial will proceed. And if found guilty, you can be rest assured that he will face time. And this is what a sane, a society that obeys the rule of law and respects institutions, this is how they run, whereby irrespective of who you are, who your father is, do you know who I am, does not apply.
Doesn't matter.
You face the music.
It does not matter at all. Well, at least that's what we're seeing here. Thank you all for your wonderful submissions. Let's move on to newspaper headlines across Nigeria. Let's take a look at the front page of This Day. This Day reports that following an ex parte application that was filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, the Federal High Court in Abuja has frozen 4 accounts linked to the former Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Mele Kyari. Now, the EFCC applied to the court for a 60-day freeze on the accounts, but the judge limited the order's tenure to just 30 days, but did say that it can be renewed if necessary. Now, the EFCC Shaky informed the court that the temporary freezing order became necessary considering the accounts are the subject of an ongoing investigation in a case involving offences of conspiracy, abuse of office and money laundering. Now, this day also reports on the National Human Rights Commission calling for the swift trials of the arrested Ansaru sect leaders. Now, the Punch lists amongst its stories the Department of State Services saying that the Awad Church attackers have ties to armed group Al-Shabaab. That's also as a federal high court in Abuja granted an application by the DSS to shield its witnesses in the trial of those 5 suspects allegedly involved in the murder of more than 40 worshippers at St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo, over in Ondo State. Now, insecurity continues with the front page of the Daily Trust as it focuses on the Katsina mosque killings. Survivors say that they were attacked on Tuesday while observing their morning prayers. Members of the community say at least 23 people were killed, though official government death toll keeps it at 13 dead. Now, there's also news that Aliyu Abdul Razak, who is the Commissioner of Policy, Personnel and Finance at the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, has been arrested and detained by the EFCC over alleged fraud. He was detained alongside the agency's Director of Finance and Accounts, Aminu Mohammed. Now, the New Telegraph reports on the federal government seeking to clear congestion at Lagos ports by confiscating more than 350 unclaimed imported vehicles. Now, importers are reportedly reluctant to collect those imports due to the increase in tariffs, taxes and duties of up to 70%. Now, the federal government says importers have until September to claim their cargo before they do. Now to politics, with the headline on the Daily Independent, which leads with the PDP vowing that manipulation that it believes was present during the recently concluded by-elections will not happen again come the general elections in 2027. Now, the leadership leads with Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, saying the presidential ambition of former Transportation Minister Rotimi Amechi is dead on arrival. Finally, The Guardian leads with how flooding and a lack of potable water across the country has contributed to the worsening cholera outbreak in 34 states. The paper also reports on the Universal Basic Education Commission saying that 60% of public school teachers lack basic digital skills.
You know, the story on the front page of The Guardian is just heartbreaking. Just imagine 60% of our teachers in government schools, which are supposed to be the schools that we are all entitled to, 60%, are not computer literate, digitally savvy. But I'm not surprised because, as I said earlier in the morning, our internet penetration, number one, is less than half, which means more than half of Nigerians don't even have access to the internet. When you look at access to electricity, we're also looking around 50, 60%. So, people, they don't have electricity, they don't have the internet. Where will they get the digital literacy from? So I think a lot needs to be done in that department. And I'll yield the floor at this point.
So,
Thank you. Go ahead.
I keep saying, Vimba likes this quote, hypocrisy is the homage vice to virtue, François de Rochefoucauld. I saw in the headlines when Wike was saying that the reason why Babacha Lawal does not like Tinubu was because of the VP slot issue. You see, there's something about hypocrisy. It comes back, as you say it comes back to you. Dino Melaye was quoted in the papers. In fact, some papers said 19 times. Some said begged. Was quoted to have said that Wike also begged him to help him influence so that he would be Atiku's running mate. So the reason why he's fighting Atiku today, was it because he too didn't get the running mates with Atiku Abubakar? That's why he's fighting. Because if he can say it for Babacha Lawal, that is because, Babacha Lawal didn't get VP to Tinubu, that's why he's fighting Tinubu.
Maybe he knows that pain personally.
But is it because he begged, based on what Dino Melaye said, to be able to become running mate to Atiku? Is that why he's fighting Atiku? No. I rest my case.
All right, so just two things very quickly. PDP saying that they're not going to allow the manipulations. I'd love to find out how. We've discussed the last weekend's by-elections in detail and talk about some of the failings that have happened. And I still think there are lots of learnings, because if this is what we should look at as a test for 2027, then we are not anywhere close to ready, because we haven't learned any lessons. All the parties, in fairness, have been tagged as guilty when it comes to vote buying and a few other infractions. So it'll be interesting to see, is it in terms of lobbying their members in the House to put up, in terms of the Constitution or the review of the Electoral Act? Is that some of the things that they're looking to do. It will be interesting to see that. But I wouldn't want to silence their voices because that is the voice of the opposition. The opposition is supposed to take the government of the day to account and see how they can lobby them to ensure that things actually work in the nation. Now, I did raise the alarm or raise that point on Monday when the Minister of Education had talked about digital skills in our schools. And I said, if that is going to work, we need to ensure that the teachers are on board. And from the report on the Guardian newspaper, it shows that they are not anywhere even close to being ready. So the main thing then is that what do we do with this information is to ensure that we upskill our teachers and we ensure that even those who are coming behind them are trained properly so that we can secure the digital future of our children. Well, thank you so much, Adefemi.
Always
good to see you.